Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Moving the Chains here on Team NBS Media. My name is Ashmere, if you're new here, and I'm so happy that you're spending the morning with me. And everyone's favorite, Jeff Barnes, is back on the show.
Well, just wanted to pop in and make sure people didn't forget me. That's all.
Oh, they definitely didn't forget you. We had Brock here, so he definitely filled in all the knowledge, and he was dropping big game. And Joe and I were just like, yeah.
Well, Brock is big time now. See, you
For
got
sure.
to it out of there, So glad to see Brock doing big things out there on the West Coast.
I know. I was like, congratulations. We need to hype this guy up more. All right, so I think before we talk any game, since I have you, I wanted to ask, because there's so many players, so many QBs injured. Like, what do you think is causing? We're only in week 3, and I feel like it's a major problem to have your star QB out only 3 weeks in. Of course, Joe Burrows we all knew the answer to that one. Just there's no line. So for Jaden Daniels, Brock Purdy, I guess we'll also put Joe in there. What do you think these teams need to do to change this, to avoid this for future seasons and like maintain what they've been building over the off season?
I think there's several factors. We always talk about injuries in the NFL now. One of the biggest reasons is we've changed a lot. We've changed how we do things practice-wise. We only have a certain amount of padded practices during the year. So practices are not as physical as they used to be. So yes, while it does save you a little wear and tear on the back end of the season, you're not getting the blocking in on the offensive line that you need. So the running games develop slower, pass protections aren't as crisp early in the season. So you start to see a lot of that happen. Quarterbacks get injured, running backs get injured. It's a little rough as teams still figure themselves out over the first 3 or 4 games of the season. So, that's why you'll see certain teams start slow and then pick it up later in the season. It's kind of they're still in preseason mode. A lot of teams hide their guys in the preseason. They'll use the inter squad scrimmages, but they won't play their starters in the preseason games. That's stuff that shows up during the regular season early in the season. So I think all of those factors are kind of leading to this injury bug you're seeing around the league, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. Like I said, offensive lines need time and real action to be out there, going through half-padded practices and as we call it, thud practices, where you're not really going to the ground. It's just tap and stop, or run past the quarterback. That stuff doesn't help totally with your offensive line. They've got to get used to the dominating people physically, and it's something that doesn't happen before the season. Those guys get going during the season, but injuries do come into play.
Yeah, the turf toe situation, I feel like that one being common in 2 quarterbacks, like nobody was expecting that to be a major issue in this season, right? Like I feel like bigger injuries make sense, but for the turf toe, which now that we've all learned from the Joe Burrow situation, is like your toe has all of these ligaments. Like I feel like I've learned a lot about the foot in the last week.
Well, with those 2 guys, look at the 2 guys that have it, the guys that have to move, right? Yeah. Somebody that's had turf toe, it's a excruciating injury. It seems simple. Oh, you can play through it. It's not. You do so much with your foot, especially on a football field,
right,
that you feel it on every movement. So it's painful. Getting an injection takes the edge off, but it doesn't take the pain away totally. So you guys, it is a rough injury to have. When it's a severe one, that and plantar fasciitis are 2 injuries that can linger, and they can cause damage. That ligament can tear after a while. So you have to treat those properly. For Joe Burrow's injury, it could cost him his season, but it's something that you have to deal with. Otherwise, you're going to lose him for the season if he completely tears it, and has surgery. So I think that's one of those things you have to deal with. But when it comes to movement, we were just talking about it. If your offensive line is causing you to move a lot, there are going to be injuries that come along with it. We saw Dak Prescott tear his hamstring last year. Once again, his offensive line caused him to move a lot. So they're running into real world injuries that the traditional pocket passers that just drop back on 3, 5, 7-step drops didn't have to deal with a lot. And it's because of the movement now with these quarterback positions, because you can't just sit in the pocket anymore. The pass rushers are too good, too athletic. So you have to be able to move. And you're going to start to get some of those athlete injuries, as we call them, on the guys on the outside game.
Yeah, I think also for Joe Burrow to come off of the season that he had, like reviving the team every single game, obviously it's not sustainable, right? So to have that expectation for this season with the same line and we encounter the same problem, so I definitely think it was unfortunate for him. And of course for Brock Purdy, not Mac Jones. Mac Jones gets to play. Yeah, and then Jaden Daniels today was, well, let's see, I forgot it. Oh, he has a heel injury. Yeah, so just same thing, different day. All right, we'll talk about the games now. So first, let's talk about the Colts and the Titans. And I feel like you're wondering, we're talking about the Colts in week 3. That's crazy. Well, the Colts have been doing a lot of good things from Daniel Jones on his new team. And I just want to start off by hearing what your thoughts are in this like new Daniel Jones situation. Like, why is he so successful?
Well, he's playing similar to how they played the year that the Giants went to the playoffs. He's not making the mistakes. He's not holding the ball too long. He's throwing on schedule. They're running the ball and kind of easing some of the stress on him. So he's not having to throw 30, 40 times a game. He's throwing within the time frame that he needs to throw the football. When Daniel Jones does that, he's an effective quarterback. Okay, when he does it, when he has to do too much, when he has to carry the load, is when you start to see the struggles that Daniel Jones has. He wasn't built to be a guy that's a volume passer. He's built to be a guy that works off of a running game, allows you to control the clock, take some shots down the field, yes, because he has the arm, but he's not a guy that's going to consistently throw it 30, 40 times a game with a lot of high volume throws down the field. That's where he throws the interceptions. That's where he holds the ball too long, trying to wait for opportunities to clear up. But when you're running the ball, and one of the things you know about the Colts is they have a very good running game, right? People are going to respect that running game, knowing that they want to help protect Daniel Jones. We talk about certain guys like that. Sam Darnold is another guy of that vein. Daniel Jones right now is playing very well in the first 2 games because they have the balance on offense and he's able to throw on schedule. Watch that first game. There was not a lot of wait, roll out and throw. He was in the pocket, clean pocket, had time to scan the field, found the receivers that were running open in the coverage. That is what you want to see from Daniel Jones. When he has to throw tight window throws all the time and throw it over defenders that are in tight coverage, that is not his strength. So they're doing a great job of scheming up some throws for him off their running game and finding time to protect him and get him clean pockets where he can survey the field and find open receivers.
Yeah, I also think that a change was needed. We knew Daniel Jones had that spark in him. It just wasn't. It was the same story as the QB injuries we just went through. Like, he was just asked to do so much and wasn't getting the protection he needed. And I feel like the Colts is a completely different environment. Like, the offense is much stronger than the Giants. Sorry, till Malik Neighbors showed up, there was really like nothing going on over there. So I think that this whole situation is really working out for the better. And the Colts just needed, Anthony Richardson, we were speaking on him in previous Moving the Chains, and, he just was in there too early. Like, that's just the reality. We all thought it when we were talking here about when he was drafted and everything. So definitely looking good for Colts. And Cam Ward, I think he has been playing, even though they're 0-2. I think if I was watching Titans games, which I am every week, because I feel like Cam Ward's keeping them competitive. So what is Cam Ward doing so far to start the season to stay up with the big? He was up with the Broncos basically the entire game until they lost in the end. So,
well, he's playing within himself, right? He knows the quarterback that he is. He's not trying to be Pat Mahomes. He's not trying to be Jaden Daniels. He's trying to be Cam Ward, right? He's running and buying time. He's getting yards when he can. But most importantly, he's keeping his eyes down the field, where he's finding receivers, when he breaks the pocket. He's not doing too much of what we see a lot of young quarterbacks do, looking at the rush, letting that determine what he does. He is still keeping his eyes down the field. When he has a chance to beat the blitz, he has done that. So you start to see certain veteran qualities in him. He's still a young passer. He's still going to make some rookie mistakes, as we have seen at times. But you're starting to see the reasons why they took him when they took him, because he has some of those it qualities that you want in a young quarterback. Still developing, and you look at it, yes, 50%, 51% completion rate when you round that up. Not high, but overall, he's not throwing poorly. You're not seeing a lot of crazy throws in the double tight and double coverage and all that stuff. He's playing within himself. We know it's a growing process, but you look at it so far, they're 0-2, but they're not 0-2 because of the quarterback. Okay, they have a lot of other deficiencies on that team that are hurting him. He's still utilizing the run game. Like I said, he does run when he needs to, but overall, when you look at the film, he's playing within the system. He's doing what he needs to do to keep them in games. They need to make a stop here and play one more competitive series on offense, and they'll be able to get some more of those wins. But right now, they're falling short in both of those areas.
I mean, I feel like the offense can come to life. Last week, we saw him make a nice pass to Imanor, I think is like how I pronounce his last name, which everybody was going crazy in fantasy football because Cam Ward's throwing good balls. So I really feel like this Titans team looks completely different and like something that you could be excited for going into the rest of the season. I don't doubt that Cam Ward will stack up a win like in the upcoming weeks. I don't have obviously their schedule on my brain, but just thinking by the way that Cam Ward has already put out this season, you can see that the team trusts him. He's doing well, and he's not making as many mistakes as you just listed off that could make things go wrong. On the other side of the ball, the Colts offensive line is far better. They are actually allowing the fourth lowest sack rate in the NFL. So Daniel Jones is finally protected when we're talking about O-lines that needs help. What else is going well for this Colts team? Jonathan Taylor had a big game last week, but outside of that, like what is it right now that are getting the Colts going?
Well, it was the last time we've talked about the Colts defense, right?
For sure.
Turn around, watch this Colts team go out there, fight for a lead, blow it. All right. So right now, this team isn't doing that. They're getting stops when they need them. They're finding ways to help their offense out and get the W's. So right now, we saw Daniel Jones come out, light it up week 1. Last week was a little more conservative. He did have some good numbers, but overall, the defense is playing well. They're playing complementary football. That term that everybody throws around, they're doing it right now. The 2 games. And it's a small sample size. It's 2 games, 17-game season, but this is only evidence you have right now. And so far, they're playing exactly what you want to call complementary football. The defense is out there getting stops when they need it, allowing this team to go out there, take leads, hold on to leads in games so they're not in dogfights at the end of them. This is how you want to play football with Daniel Jones. This team is doing a great job right now slowing down the running game. They're not giving up big runs and get gashed in the running game. They're making teams work 80 yards and 70 yards down the field, not giving up these big chunk plays every time they're on the field. That's the first way you can become a better defense, is to limit those big plays and force teams to work 10 yards at a time. You'll find out there's always going to be a holding call. There's always going to be a negative play that puts you behind the sticks that can kill a drive. That's the best way to play defense, and that's what they're doing right now. It's not any special scheme. They're not looking at it, drawing up these exotic blitzes. They're doing some quality things on defense, but most importantly, it's 11 men executing the scheme, getting teams off the field when they need them, and key moments of the game.
All right, I have to ask about the owner on the sideline, of course, Carly Ursay. Everybody's talking about her, and I want to understand what you think of her being on the sideline with the team, wearing a headset, just being super involved, and like, I don't know, just having her whole mind and commitment to the entire 60-minute game, because I feel like obviously when it comes to women on the sidelines, there's a mixed review coming in from the people.
Of course.
So what are your thoughts on her being there, and the Colts are 2-0 to start?
I have no problem with it. I can remember when sometimes owners were coaches, right? We talk about George Hallis and all those guys, right, that were coaches and owners of teams. Paul Brown used to own the Browns and he coached the team, right? That was something old NFL that kind of died off. And the newer NFL was the owners in this luxury box sitting up there watching everything happen. There's nothing wrong. And I know we beat up Jerry Jones because he comes down to the sideline. He does all this stuff. An owner is an owner. Okay, yeah. Every team I've coached, the owner's been there, whether he's involved in the coaching or not. I'm wearing a throwback militia shirt for when one of the teams I coached that won a championship. Our owner was on the sideline every game. Trust me, he was watching. Okay, and something that's always great for an owner to be involved. She wants to be involved. She wants to hear what's going on the headset. She wants to see how the operation's going. She's paying a lot of money for her head coach. Okay, so she wants to make sure, just like the players are out there doing what they're supposed to do, she wants to make sure her coaches are giving her what her money's worth. There's nothing wrong with that. She's not out there getting on the headset and getting involved. She just has an earpiece and she's listening in. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay, so there are people that say, "Oh, why is she on the sideline?" It's her organization. She can run it how she wants. If she wants to be involved, she can be involved. I have no problem with that. And I know there's a lot of people that believe the owner should be up there in the box. No, the owner can be where they want to be. If they want to stand on the sideline in a polo next to the head coach and do the job, then so be it. They're not, if the owner wants to coach, I have no problem with that either. But the fact of the matter is, if it's not detrimental to the organization, if they're not getting in the way of helping them win, then there's nothing wrong with it. It's not an owner coming down there saying things that they're gonna say Jerry Jones, but Jerry Jones is a lot more good for the Cowboys than bad. And people only see the bad with him. But you've had winning teams for how many years? And guess what? Jerry Jones is a part of that, folks. So sorry if you want to be pitchfork at Jerry Jones, sell the team stuff. Guess what? They won. So, but she's not as involved as Jerry. She sits there, she listens, she looks at the play sheet, she's making sure the operation goes the way she wants it. There's nothing wrong with that. Owners are different kind of owners. Some owners are involved, some sit in the booth on Sundays and watch the game, and if they're happy at the end or sad at the end, they're all they are. They've had their luxury suite well furnished, and they've been fed and drank very well, and they go about their business. Some owners are like that. There are some that are going to be more hands-on. They're going to have to say over personnel. They're going to have to say over what goes on game day. They'll be down there on the sideline watching what goes on. It is your team, your investment, your billion-dollar investment. Guess what? If you want to be involved, you have every right to be.
Billion-dollar investment. Put that on a shirt.
If you want to manage your wallet that has $5 in it and nobody's going to complain about it, well, guess what? She's got a lot more invested in that organization that was inherited to her and her family. She's going to be involved in the way she wants to be involved. There's nothing.
For sure. I think it's exciting. Like, she made so many headlines. Everyone's talking about it. And I also think the fact that there's another woman owner being brought to the light, it's just like, I commented, I was like, we love women in leadership roles. And of course I got hate on that, but it'd be like that. They're on the road today, so I think it'll be exciting to see what the Colts continue to do. I feel like this game will be fun. And I also think the Colts have been a fun team to watch. All right, next we're going to talk about, of course, the NFC champion rematch that happened last year. Eagles defense figured it out. They sacked Matthew Stafford for a loss of 10 yards and got to go to the Super Bowl and eventually win. Yeah. Obviously, Eagles are going 100. The tush push is a major conversation. So we'll start there. What's your thoughts on the tush push? Should it be banned? Do you want it out of the NFL?
I don't think it should be banned. And the reason being, everybody asks why the Eagles run it so well. It's a rugby style play. It's not a typical quarterback sneak. It's a rugby style play. You look at the way their formation, the wedge that they're in. It's a rugby style play. They have a tackle that was brought to them that was a rugby player. He brought rugby to the NFL. So the guy that brought it to the NFL is going to run it better than everybody else. So that explains why they have so much success at it. Now, there's certain things you can change about the play. The fact that guys are lined up in the neutral zone and they're not getting called for it is something that you can change, right? You have to make that part legal. They can't have that advantage because if a defensive player has his helmet in the neutral zone to stop that play, it's a penalty. So if you're going to call that, remember that ball has to have a clear neutral zone. There's nobody lined up in it. And the only thing you can have is maybe the head and hands of the center in there, okay? The guards can't be in there. We've seen guards leaning over the ball, right? We've seen everything about that play where you have other players in that neutral zone from the offense. You have to clear that up. Once you clean that up, it's a level playing field. Then if they're still better than everybody else at it, then so be it, right? But they should be. Like I said, the guy that brought it to the game is a guy that's playing for me. He came from rugby. It's a rugby-style play, the way he's changed it. We've taken a quarterback sneak and made it more rugby-style. That's exactly what they did. There's nothing wrong with that. You're being innovative. We always talk about innovation in the sport. So kudos to them for doing it. They're recognizing a player that they have that can bring something to the table, not just with his physical aspects, but bringing something to the table schematically that helps give them an advantage. There's nothing wrong with that. It's an advantage anybody can take of as long as you're doing that one part legally where you're recognizing the neutral zone. Neither team is lining up in the neutral zone. That makes it even.
Well, if you do the play 7 times in a row, are you still going to feel like it shouldn't be banned?
Listen, like I said, the NFL is, if you can't stop it, you don't ban it because you can't stop it, right? We didn't ban, the deep ball because defenses can't seem to stop it without getting pass interference penalties, right? Very great coverage. So it's not always about, the success. It's when you look at it, there's certain parts of the play that you need to clean up. That neutral zone is a major factor. When I have to line up off the ball, but you can line up in the neutral zone and get away with it, that's a problem. That's an unfair advantage. That part has to be cleaned up. If you clean up the neutral zone aspect, you'll probably see a little diminish in how they do it, but you'll still see some success because, once again, the guy that brought that play to the NFL is the guy that's on that line that's executing it the best. It is what it is. That's just how it's going to be. We know we talk about the deep ball and Randy Moss, right? Who was the best high pointer of them all? Randy Moss. Why? Because he brought that aspect back to the NFL. Yeah, you can do it with a couple of guys. We know that Alvin Harper was a great high pointer of the ball. Megatron was a great high, but we always talk about getting bossed, right? We didn't ban Randy Moss from out jumping anybody. He just was that dude. So you don't take that away just because they're better at it than everybody else. You take it away because something illegal about the play is there. And the legal part about it is the neutral zone.
All right, Jeff. You're a Trekkie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Original crew is more of my favorite. As you notice, that the refit Enterprise in the background. Hand built. I didn't buy it like that. I built that myself. But
okay, doubling down on that.
So, matter of fact, just for you, I'll even turn the lights on. Not that you'll see it.
Let's make Jeff a big screen.
There you go.
Okay. Hand built, lights on.
There you go. So
I love it.
Always glad to see the Trekkies out there representing. Forgive me if I'm a little nasally. My sinuses seem to be going crazy, whether it's fan, AC, humidity. 1 minute I'm clear, the next minute I'm not. Some minutes I'm sounding like I'm breathing through my mouth all the time.
Sometimes. No, don't worry. That's why I'm drinking my 8 a.m. show. I'm having a tea. Otherwise, I'm not going to survive.
I hear you.
It's the worst. All right. The passing game for Philly has been kind of non-existent. Everyone's talking about how Jalen Hurts is not really a great quarterback. Want to hear your thoughts. Why is Jalen Hurts struggling with the passing game right now? I think the default of Saquon Barkley was obviously expected. You have the best running back. You're going to utilize him. So want to hear your thoughts on Jalen.
I don't think he's totally struggling. They just haven't had the need for it, right? They're controlling the clock with the running game. They're getting in situations where you're in third and short. What are you doing on third and short? You're tush pushing, getting the first down, right? He's using his legs when he gets into trouble. He's not waiting for guys. He's not forcing throws into coverage. So I think what you're seeing from Jalen Hurts is that he's playing within the system. They're getting leads. They're holding on. They're being a little more conservative than in the past, where they did take a lot more shots with leads to kind of put people away. They weren't doing that, right? The Dallas game was a little different, right? They were both going back and forth in the first half. He threw for a lot of yards in the first half, not so many in the second half. Both defenses kind of showed up in that second half. Not so much this game against Kansas City. It was a tight game all the way through. But the running game has been what's carried them against the Chiefs. Not so much against the Cowboys. It was Jalen Hurts' legs that carried them against the Cowboys. So they're winning whichever way they have to. They're not trying to be, when we talk about trying to be Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're not trying to be that. They're being the Philadelphia Eagles. If it means we run for 150 yards, throw for 100, and we win, so be it. If it means we throw for 350 and run for 50 and we win, so be it. Whatever gets them the W that day is what they're doing offensively. They're more concerned about being a tough defensive team that's going out there and keeping people's points down. All right. They didn't do that week 1. They did that week 2. And I think that's what you're looking at with that team is everybody's trying to look for the gaudy numbers. He didn't have gaudy numbers most of the season last year. He had some great games, but for the most part, he played within the scheme. And that's all you need from Jalen Hurts. He's a way better quarterback when he plays within the scheme than he has to throw 30 times, 40 times a game, because he doesn't have the ability to turn the ball over, right? He's going to go out there and give you quality effort over and over again. You know, the yards game passing is not something he is doing. He's big on right now because, plain and simple, they're running the ball, they're controlling the clock, the defense is playing well, and they're playing with leads. So they're doing everything they need to do right now. When it comes time to go out there and start putting up these big calls and big numbers because teams are scoring consistently on them and they have to go back and forth, I think you'll start to see more of that Eagles offense. But if they're playing with a lead and they know that defense is out there and they're keeping teams out of the end zone, they don't have to go out there and light it up. They will if their opportunities are there, but right now they're playing within themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. I know everybody wants the big numbers. Fantasy points are the big driver of everything. But you want to know what? They're not worried about fantasy points. They're worried about another one of these. And right now, they're playing well enough to get back in position to try and get one.
All right, now we'll go to the other side of the. I actually, my hot take, I forgot to ask you this when we started. I'll ask after we take a little break. My hot take for the season was that if Matthew Stafford stays healthy, Rams could be in the Super Bowl. So I think this is a preview of what that could look like, a rematch of what we've already seen in the NFC. And so far, the Rams defense has looked stellar. And I think that is a huge issue in today's matchup. The Eagles faced Chiefs last week. Yeah, I mean, I think I picked them to win last week. I didn't think the Chiefs defense was going to hold off anything. That whole team is lost, right? So I think this is the first real matchup that you're going to see the Eagles struggle, maybe not have a lead, build that up to a lead. So I'm wondering what the Rams defense is looking like, doing well, and, you know, how they've started this season so far.
Well, the Rams are really strong up front, and they've gotten stronger. They've added some pieces in the secondary, so that kind of helped that defense out even more. I think this will be one of the stiffest challenges they face because here's a team that can throw it at you, that can run it at you, and when you think you've got everything covered, somehow this guy breaks out. It's also one of the better offensive lines they're going to face. So I think we'll see this Rams defense tested today, but you're also going to see this Eagles defense tested, right? We didn't see them tested last week, right? We know about the challenges the Chiefs are having with two of their top receivers out for several games. They don't have the strongest running game to challenge you. Like Dallas had a stronger running game. They have receivers that can test you. And for that first half, it was back and forth. You may get a little of that again today. You may see a little bit of back and forth with these two teams before finally somebody starts to get a hold of this game. Right? So don't be surprised if we're expecting a defensive minded football game today and we start to see some offense early. It may take a while for these two defenses to get a foothold in what they're facing this week. I think Devontae Adams fits into what the Rams do. So that's going to challenge the Eagles defense that likes to play a lot of zone and mix things up and use that front four. Their front four is not as good as it was last year. and we talk about the pass rush mindset, is the interior group for that Eagles front is tough. However, those edge rushers were dynamic before. You have a little bit less of them. A lot more younger guys that are still proving themselves. So you're going to get that kind of test from this Eagles front. Can those guys on the edge create the constant pressure that they were able to get during their Super Bowl run and the previous run before that? That's going to be the test, because this Rams team offensively is still kind of growing on the offensive line with all the changes they've had over the past couple of years as they built that offense. So I think right now you're going to be looking at two offenses that are going to challenge these two defenses early. Which defense is able to make the adjustment, slow the other down, and allow their offense to take a lead is going to be the one that possibly comes out on top of this.
Yeah, and you've got like 4 dynamic elite wide receivers, right? We've got 2 on the Eagles, 2 on the Rams, and of course Puka Nacua is going to have a deep ball game, and it's against the other wide receiver who's able to do the exact same thing. I guess Devontae Smith, I'll put him in there as well. AJ and Devontae Smith could have that one explosive play, and then everyone will calm down on the passing game. And I just feel like there's a lot more pieces on the Rams that we're not giving them credit for just yet, because the 2 games that they've played so far have been pretty close. I mean, last week, of course, they beat the Titans in the end, but it was close until halftime. So if, just like you're saying, the defense for the Eagles is able to basically maintain what the Titans were able to do in their way more experienced fashion, I think that is what's going to take over for the Eagles. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to talk about our final matchup, and we're going to see what teams should hit the panic meter. All right.
You are watching Team NBS Media. We are a digital media brand covering sports, entertainment, and lifestyle, with team members all across the country. Through our written content, podcasts, and video content, we bring you fresh and professional content. Interested in joining the team? Shoot us an email or DM. Make sure.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Moving the Chains with Jeff and Ashmere. Today we're talking about, we've already done our first 2 matchups, and of course it would be so wrong if we didn't talk about the Monday night game that is going to be just a big game for the Lions. I think that's the most important thing, is how are the Lions going to turn things around? We've seen Lamar absolutely take over against the Bears. I didn't know what word to use, but they murdered them last week because they took off the big loss to the Bills the week before out on Chicago, which is just obviously expected. And so the Lions are not looking anything like they did last year. I think that losing their offensive coach and their defensive coach have been a major adjustment, and they're just trying to figure out how to be that top-notch team that they were last season. So what is not going well, in your opinion, for Detroit? Like, what are they struggling with right now?
Well, you kind of touched on a little of it. First thing is that you have new leaders on both sides of the ball, 2 new coordinators. That takes a period of adjustment. It takes, when you have a new person come in on offense, not all coordinators, even though they may run the same scheme, call things the same way, have the same tendencies, it takes a while sometimes for players to adjust to that, right? I know for many years I've always been a Air Coryell offensive guy. I know I've seen many Air Coryell offensive coordinators. They are not the same, right? North Turner is not Brian Billick. Brian Billick is not Ken Zampese, all right? So while you have different, all the same system, same thing with West Coast coordinators, different guys. Bill Walsh was way different from Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren was different from Mariucci, all right? There is a different kind of system. The same system, but different kind of person calling it, different tendencies, different philosophy. So what you're seeing with Detroit is they're still trying to get their hands around this system. Same thing defensively. They're still trying to get their hands around this system. There's still a lot of changes that were made that they haven't fully grasped. There's situations where they're still not in the position they need to be, or they don't, they may agree with the call and they're doing it, but they're not executing the way it needs to be done. That takes time. And once again, we talk about preseason. Guys aren't getting it done because in preseason, they're, there's the backups out there in those games. Those guys are doing scrimmages, control scrimmages with the starters. It's different come regular season when you're out there with your guys trying to win every week. It matters. All that stuff does matter. So teams have to understand that, plain and simple, because you're going to go out there and execute, it takes a while to get a scheme down and master it. So they're going through those early struggles. The Ravens, on the other hand, are a team that should be 2-0. Okay, sure. They had control in the Buffalo game. They let it get out of control, and they lost it. They had a get-right game last week. Both of these teams had their get-right game last week. Well, who's going to come out on top? Both one-on-one. They both had a week one disappointment, got it right in week two. But now it's time to step up in competition, right? You're out there this week. If I'm the Lions, right now, you want to get back in this hunt. Green Bay is on a roll. Minnesota's floundering. Chicago's floundering. It's going to be a two-team race if this keeps up the whole season. I want to make sure it's not Green Bay running away with this division by week 8. I want to get back in the hunt. I need to get a win today. Baltimore, I want to take a stranglehold on the North. We already lost one game. Let's not make it 2. Let's go out there and get it done today. So these two teams right now, and if it's up to me, are in a must-win situation. You don't want to come out of this game 1 and 2 and still trying to get a hold of your division. You want to go out there, take control of your division right now by going out there, getting a win today, getting on a roll. So when you get back in a division play, you're not out there trying to figure out who you are. Get a hold of yourself now.
Well, they both can't win.
Yes.
Because it is a must-win. I think coming off of a Packers major loss and then dominating against the Bears, Jared Goff had some of the best stats he's put up in a while. I don't think you can consider that important when you face someone in your division that totally takes over and then beat the Bears, right? We know what the Bears are. You're not making anything special there. And then for Baltimore to lose a lead and give it up in the last second, right? That's also you're not going to win the rest of the season like that. So I think that for this matchup, the passing game, I think it's a Derrick Henry takeover. I think Derrick Henry, even though he has fumbled in back-to-back weeks now, he's got already 2 on the season, very unlike King Henry. I feel like anyone can agree with that. Yeah. But I do think that taking over in the running game here will help them because the Lions, I think their running defense needs to clean up a little. That's something that you could see they're still working on, right? You could see that it's from last year to this year has been not a significant jump, but just you can tell that that is one thing that they're still growing in the week 3 matchup, and you're taking on top 5 running back. So I feel like that's where this team can really excel. I am curious though for the passing attempt for the Ravens. What do you think? How do you think they can go to the next level? I think that's what really is missing in this Ravens offense is that passing attack.
The question is, who do you fear? You fear Lamar Jackson, but who else? When it comes to the passing attack, who do you fear? When you talk about the top passing teams in this league, when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, well, his 2 guys are out right now. There is no Rashee Rice. There is no I forget the young man, the slot receiver's name right now. But those 2 guys are out. When you talk about the Dallas Cowboys, you got CeeDee Lamb, Pickens on the outside. You fear those guys. You don't want those guys having big games. When you talk about the Eagles, you got Devontae Smith. You have A.J. Brown. You fear those guys. Even now you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. People fear DJ Metcalf. Okay? You don't have that fear right now. Okay? Flowers is the best thing you have. And you don't really fear him. You're aware of him, but you don't fear him. Mark Andrews is not the same player he was 5 years ago. You don't fear Mark Andrews anymore. You're aware of him, but you don't fear him anymore. Isaiah Likely is a very good receiver, but the receiving tight end, you don't fear him now, right? And Bateman has never been a guy that you feared. He's never been healthy. And even when healthy, he's an inconsistent playmaker. All right. So they don't have a consistent winner on the outside that you fear. So if I'm Detroit, I'm going to take away this running game. I'm going to spy Lamar, and I'm going to make those guys that I do not fear beat me consistently. They may get one on you. They may get two on you, but you got to have to make them prove that they're going to consistently beat you for big plays. Right? That's not going to happen. I'm not going to take your biggest two playmakers are in that backfield, the Lamar and Derrick Henry. And that's the biggest two playmakers you have on offense. And that's why when you talk about Baltimore and how they're built and how they operate, well, Lamar does all this and Lamar does that. And why is he always in the MVP conversation? Well, this is why. Because you fear Lamar, you fear Derrick Henry, you don't fear the guys on the outside. You're aware of them, but you don't fear them. There are guys that you worry about on the outside, and Devontae Adams is a guy that you fear, right? So there are guys on the outside who you fear. You say, we can't let this guy beat us. You don't have that in Baltimore. Baltimore is don't let these guys go out there and make plays and get hot, because then they may start to hurt us, but they're not consistent playmakers. The guy you worry about is 7 beating you with some big throws and then running around and hurting you with his legs. You worry about Derrick Henry running over your secondary, getting second level. You try and get to him at the line of scrimmage so he doesn't get a full steam ahead run where he's running over the smaller guys on your defense. Those are the two things you fear with Baltimore. You do not fear Flowers killing you in the slot consistently. You do not fear Bateman beating you on the outside consistently. And you don't fear those two tight ends taking over the game. They just don't do it. They're not built that way.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I feel like that's where you were going to go, because Zay Flowers had the opportunity to be an elite wide receiver, but I just feel like that chance kind of slipped through his fingers because Lamar and the running game really takes over and wins games for Baltimore. All right, so before we pick our games of the week, Jeff is going to take us through what teams should be panicking.
Absolutely. Every year we get into the point of the season where you start to panic, right? Sometimes a little earlier than others. We're talking about right now, some teams are just in straight up panic mode, right? You're 0-2, and you can come back from 0-2 and make the playoffs. We've seen 0-2 win a Super Bowl, but sometimes 0-2 is you're playing so bad that you really are panicking right now, because 0-2 can quickly become 0-5, 0-6, 1-8. Okay, and those are the teams that are panicking right now. So let's talk about some 0-2 teams that are in panic mode. Let's start with the Chicago Bears. All right, 0-2. You look listless week 1. You look even worse week 2. And here you are, they're questioning your quarterback. They're questioning the coaching. They're questioning the GM. They're questioning everybody. Are you in full-blown panic mode? No. If the GM believes that this coach is right, you'll eventually get the ship righted. But it's not looking good early. And you can't have this go on, because then they're going to start questioning, well, we've changed the coach. We've changed the quarterback. Is it you, Mr. GM? Or is this guy ready to be a head coach? How about that? Was he just a really good coordinator? So there's going to be a lot of questions going on if this doesn't get righted, or at least start to look like it gets righted soon. So right now they're in early panic mode. Something's got to start to change for this team before it gets inconceivably worse. All right. Number 2, the New York Jets. Okay. Made all these changes. You brought in a hometown hero in Aaron Glenn, former Jets player. You brought in Justin Fields. You brought in all these things on offense, younger guys that you have. You believed in them. You believed they were being held back by the veteran Aaron Rodgers. And you come out and look decent week 1 against Aaron Rodgers. and you let them get away. Then you turn around and get smacked around by the Buffalo Bills. I mean, and it wasn't even close. I was sitting literally with a couple of Bills fans watching that game. Was as a guest at a friend of mine to watch some of the games, and some Bills fans were just sitting there, and they were watching other games because they already knew they had that in the bag when they were up 21. That's how bad they looked last week. You are now 0-2. You were in a shootout with a team. There was a little more emotional investment trying to beat the guy that you brought in to save the franchise. He didn't get it done. Well, last week it was a division rival, a chance to make a statement, and you fell flat on your face. I mean, utterly flat on their face. If that was a boxing match, it would have been a one-punch knockout 59 seconds into the fight. Okay, so if I am the New York Jets right now, granted, once again, we're talking about another new regime. We've got to get something going because this fan base is frustrated. They've been frustrated for a long time. They're going to turn ugly on people real fast, okay, because they're tired of this. Right? They do not like being 0-something, okay? But even when they were bad the last couple of years, they were at least 1-3, 2-2. There was something to cheer about. There was nothing to cheer about right now. You were hot game one, but you didn't get the win, and then you fell flat on your face versus one of your biggest division rivals. I think the only thing worse right now would be losing to the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so right now the New York Jets, right, are in panic mode. And speaking of said Miami Dolphins, you are 0-2. Okay, you looked utterly bad week one. All right, I mean it was inconceivably bad week one, and then you go out there and you lose a heartbreaker to the Patriots, and then you lose to the Bills on Thursday night in a heartbreaker. So you've lost 2 division games. You're already 0-2 in the division. You're 0-3 overall. So right now, they're in panic mode right now, okay? They're looking at the GM, Chris Greer. They're looking at Mike McDonald, the head coach. They're looking at Tua. Is he even worth it at this point? They're looking at Tyreek Hill and saying, is he worth the money anymore? Is he worth the aggravation? There's a lot of finger pointing going around in Miami right now. So 0-3, if there's anybody in real panic mode, it is the Miami Dolphins. This is supposed to be a playoff team. This is supposed to be a team with one of the most consistent rosters, and you're not seeing anything that shows you this team is playoff worthy right now. They've gotten decimated week one. They lost a tough game to a non-playoff team in the New England Patriots, and they played Buffalo tough on Thursday, but still lost by 10. So, nevertheless, on a short week, you get the Bills, you lose by double digits. You lose to a team in the division who you feel you're superior in than the New England Patriots. Right now, I'm looking at Miami. I'm going, what is going on with my defense? We can't seem to stop anybody. My explosive offense isn't very explosive right now. Right now, we have a lot of issues, and they can't seem to figure it out. And like I said, the finger pointing is going in multiple directions, whether it's the top to the bottom of the roster. Okay, there's a lot of finger pointing going on in Miami, and I think they're in that one organization in the biggest panic right now.
I think you hit the 3 right on the head. Like, I didn't add them, but we've got Bears, Jets, Miami.
Bears, Jets, and Dolphins.
All right, I'm going to add on to, I think everybody knows this franchise. It's not even a surprise. The Cleveland Browns, when are we going to see Shedeur Sanders out on the field? I just think that's what we're all waiting for. They need some revitalization in the QB sector. They're 0-2. No one expected any different. They're taking on the Chiefs. Oh, no, sorry. That's New York Giants, who is maybe another team I was panicking on, but not sure yet. They're just chaotic, right? I think Cleveland had all of these pieces defensively, and then they just fell apart. And now offensively, we're wondering what is going on. I mean, Joe Flacco, he keeps them in the game, right? We love to see that. But you don't need that unless you're getting W's, and that's not happening for Cleveland. I don't think we're expecting too much from what the messiness looks like in this franchise. But I do think that if you drafted you have 5 guys in the QB room, right? You're holding on to them for whatever reason. somebody else needs to get a shot. We need to see Dylan Gabriel out there. You got to see Shador out there. You just got to give the offense something different. You got to give this team somebody that they know that they can rely on and they can turn to. And how much longer are we going to keep this head coach here for this franchise? Like, how many chances does he get to take over and, just try to figure out, get them W's? I think Cleveland is definitely panicking. I feel like they have had the opportunity. They've been given the chances, and they've got 2 young guys waiting, and they're just not taking advantage of any of that.
Yeah, I don't know if they're panicking, because I don't know if anybody looked at them and said they're a contender or a playoff team or even a winning team this year.
Not even a winning team?
No, I don't know anybody that had the winning record on Cleveland this year. When I saw it. And it's because of what you saw this offseason. We knew Deshaun Watson was out this whole year, so that ended that. In the draft, they waited till draft the 2 young quarterbacks they drafted. They waited on Shador till round 5. They waited. They got Dylan Gabriel ahead of them, and neither one of those 2 guys are ready to play right now. So that's a problem. Okay, and you're going with Joe Flacco, who's a consistent guy, but he's not going to win you games for 17 games. So that team is not built to win right now. And granted, Myles Garrett's whole argument for the new contract was, I want to go somewhere where I can win, and he got paid. But kudos to him. He got paid the extra money, because you're not going to win, brother. It's just not going to happen right now. You're not built to win right now. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with that roster, and it starts with the offense. What are we? Okay, you let Nick Chubb go, and I love the young backs that they have. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they can't run the football with the guys they have. They surely can. They've had a loaded backfield for a while. So losing Nick Chubb hurt, but it didn't hurt as much because of the young guys they had behind them. However, what are we? Kevin Stefanski was supposed to be a next guru. And this is when I talk about guys that are really good as coordinators somewhere, but as head coaches, they are not the same. Kevin Stefanski was one of those guys, right? As a coordinator, he was pretty good where he was. He could work with the guys he had. He could win. The guys executed in the system that he great. He hasn't had that happen in Cleveland since the early part of his tenure there. They had one great run, and they had another decent run where Watson got hurt and Flacco came in and stabilized the offense late in the season. They made a run to the playoffs. But other than that, they haven't gotten it done. They're not consistent offensively. The problem with it, let's talk about the quarterback situation. Why can't he get Watson to perform? Mm-hmm. What was the 2-pronged situation? He doesn't know how to use Watson. Watson's not the same guy he was in Houston. Okay, the injuries have robbed him of his mobility. He can't do the things he did in Houston when he extended plays, ran, and did all that stuff. He's not that guy anymore. So Deshaun Watson has to change, right? He hasn't done that yet. He still believes he's the guy in Houston. But Kevin Stefanski doesn't know what to do with that guy to begin with anyway. He's a on-time, schedule throwing quarterback, which is why Flacco works for him, which is why all those guys that he had that were like that worked for him. But the extender, the runner, the throw on the move guy doesn't work for him. It's not his cup of tea, the off-schedule thrower. So Deshaun Watson is no longer that off-schedule thrower. He needs to kind of move towards a Stefanski kind of thing where he's throwing on time, but that wasn't what made him special. Right, so that's why that relationship doesn't work. The Flacco relationship, Flacco's just an older player. He's diminished. He can throw on time. He can do stuff, but he's not going to consistently win for 17 games. So that's out the window. Dylan Gabriel is a shorter quarterback who can throw on schedule, but he's not going to make a lot of big plays because he can't evade NFL rushes like he did college rushes.
Sure.
Okay, so that's one thing. Shador Sanders can throw on schedule at times, but he's used to holding the football long and buying time because his receivers in Colorado were not elite, right? So they didn't exactly get open all the time. He had to buy time and wait for those guys to get open, do all the crazy whirly dervish stuff to avoid pass rush in the pocket and all that stuff. His line wasn't very good at pass protecting in Colorado. Now at the NFL, he's trying to do that. You can't do it. Okay, you have to throw on schedule. You have to be more. So you saw the inconsistency in the preseason with him. He had a great first game and a bad second game because, plain and simple, that doesn't work week to week. You have to be able to adjust and adapt. So he's got to learn. So those two young guys got to learn. So you're not getting any better by starting them right now, and you're not getting any better with the guy you got. So they're in a bad situation. And we talk about panic mode, but if you expected it to be good, you were definitely looking at the wrong book. That was definitely not one that was going to be good at all this year. It would have taken a miracle for Cleveland to have a playoff season. They just were not built for it this year. It looks like they're trying to build for it for something at the end of this Watson contract, the way they built this team this year.
Yeah, I think I was bringing them in the panic mode in the sense of their finances. They're just paying. They've got so much money funneling out of this team.
$200 million guaranteed. That'll do it.
Yeah. They basically just put all their money in a pile and set it on fire and just said, we don't care if we get blown out. And I think that's where more I was going, was like, your finances are just extremely high. And two, you don't want to keep going into games and getting absolutely obliterated. They're taking on the Packers today, right? It's just like, you can't watch a franchise game in and game out, not put in a good product. And I think that's more where I was going on the panic meter. I did not think the Browns were contenders at all.
No. Yeah, no, it's, and we talked about it. It comes back to that contract, right? And I got a flag from certain sports writers because I let out what a source told me, and I trust my sources. When a source says 31 owners don't trust that agent because of that Deshaun Watson contract, this is why they don't trust the agent, because they know he's going to rake them over coals for unreasonable stuff. They do not trust him in negotiations. Jerry Jones stood up to him. Micah Parsons is not in Dallas because he wasn't going to get raked over coals by this guy. Mm-hmm. He's trying to set the standard and say, hey, listen, if you're not going to do business in a fair manner that fits me and you, I'm not dealing with you. And that's what they did in Dallas. And people were mad at Jerry, but one owner was going to stand up to him at some point, and it was Jerry Jones that stood up to him. And it was because of this contract here. The Cleveland Browns are the reason why, right? We talk about guaranteed money in owners. They hate giving out fully guaranteed contracts.
Sure.
This is why. When it goes bad, it destroys the organization. So when I said that is because there were legitimate sources from other organizations. And I got a certain sports writer that got mad at me, called me a liar on Twitter. This is exactly why, right? The proof is in the pudding. I didn't have to say it, but it was said anyway because it's what's out there. Okay, so plain and simple. When you go back to it and you wonder why things don't work out, when you sign a guy for $200 million and he's not playing for you, guess what? That $200 million is guaranteed and it's still on your books. You cut them, it's still on your books. Mm-hmm. It's an albatross to an organization. If they don't trust that agent that negotiated this deal, that raked them across the coals, every owner believes that's what they're going to get from this guy every time they got to sit down in negotiation. Some are willing to do it no matter what to keep a player. Some are not. And you found out in Dallas, they were not. Okay? If they didn't take that fifth year and spread that cap hit out, they were not keeping Micah Parsons, and they did just that. So that explains why Micah Parsons is not in Dallas. Thank you, Cleveland Browns, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, because David Mulligella got that fully guaranteed contract for Deshaun Watson. It went bad in Cleveland. Dallas said, we don't want that. We don't want that smoke. Micah, you got to go.
Yeah. No, for sure. Full-blown learning experience for everyone in the NFL when it comes to guaranteed money. All right. Before we head out, we're going to do a quick rapid fire because it's just Jeff and I, so we don't have that many people to give us their ideas of the game. I forgot to make the cool Canva graphic. It's so hard when you have to fill in what all the things Jeff was doing before, okay? No, I'm only one girl.
You appreciate me now.
Yeah. I'm like, geez, Jeff was doing a lot of work back then. All right. Quick rapid fire. Yeah. Bengals, Vikings.
Ooh. This is a tough one. Neither one of these guys are playing with their starting quarterback, right? Burrow's out. McCarthy's out. So which backup do you trust? I am leaning towards Minnesota. on this one. I think, it was a great comeback last week versus Jacksonville for Cincinnati, but I think the first L comes this week in Minnesota.
Hold on. Let me write this down. Since I'm poorly prepared. Okay. All right. You're picking Minnesota because you trust their quarterback more.
I trust their quarterback versus Cincinnati's defense more than I trust their quarterback, Cincinnati's backup versus Minnesota's defense.
Yeah, I think this is a fun game. Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase, but like with no star.
Yeah, with no starting quarterback. It's gonna be interesting, right?
So I think I'm gonna go with Minnesota just because their defense was game one scary, and I think in this matchup they can be scary too. So I'm gonna agree with you on that. All right, next game: Texans and Jaguars.
Texans 0-2. There's something going on with that offense right now.
Yeah, it's bad.
The brutal protection issues they had last week versus Tampa Bay. And there was some, don't get me wrong, Todd Bowles schemed up some great blitzes in that game, but sometimes it was just brutal. There was certain misses that it was inexcusable how they couldn't recognize the blitz that was coming at them. It's hampering that team. The defense is having some issues as well. Jacksonville was improved from what we saw last year.
Mm-hmm.
In the division, in Jacksonville, as much as I want to lean Jacksonville, I think Houston gets off the schneid. I think they even these two out. They're both 1-2 at the end of this. I'm going to take Houston in this one.
Me too. I just I don't know what Trevor Lawrence can and can't do game in and game out, and I feel like the Texans defense is going to be upset at how they've started the season. So that's really why I'm picking them. All right, Colts and Titans. We already talked about this game. I think we both know where we're headed here.
Well, don't sleep on the Titans in this one. It's another divisional divisional matchup. Divisional matchups can be funky, as we saw last week. Everybody expected Dallas to run all over the Giants. They went back and forth and over.
Yeah.
Right. So divisional matchups are one of those hard to predict, especially early in the season. But I think the Colts are playing well. I think the Tennessee Titans are getting there. I think they go to 0-3. I think the Colts will be 3-0. But don't be surprised if this is closer than a lot of people think. And don't be surprised if it's a fourth quarter turnover that dooms the Titans. I think overall, though, it's going to be a very competitive game. I don't see this being a blowout. I think this is going to be very competitive in Tennessee at that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm picking the Colts, though, just because they're on a heater and Jonathan Taylor is there. I think that's my two answers. Raiders and Commanders.
Ooh, Commanders with the backup. And then you have the Raiders with the young team, young rebuilding team. Something about this Commanders defense isn't hitting like last year. Everybody, we were talking about how good they looked last year. They don't look the same this year, right? The Raiders, on the other hand, have had peaks and valleys in games. They haven't put a complete game together yet. So, but the Raiders are whole. The Commanders are not. Even in Washington, I'm going to take the Raiders.
Whoa, everyone. Jeff is taking the Raiders. We're going to remember this day. I'm obviously picking the Raiders because I think Geno gets a get-right game, and the Commanders' defense is one he can figure out. Last week was just – we knew the Chargers' the Chargers' team is much more complete, as you just said. Rams and Eagles.
Rams and Eagles. This is a tough one, but there's got to be a winner. Right now, the Eagles' defense is playing well. Like I said, had their struggles in the first half versus Dallas, figured out in the second half, went out there, shut down a one-dimensional Chiefs team. It was a tight game. Their offense played enough they had to win. I think this is going to start out high scoring. The defense that comes together and was able to control the other offense gets the win. Right now, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think they're a little more consistent defensively. I think the Rams are coming on. Once the Rams fully figure it out, they're going to be scary. But right now, I think the Eagles are still a team that understands who they are, what they are, and they know how to win games with what they are.
Jeff and I are straight up unanimous going into this, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We have not
unanimous picks last year were the kiss of death for somebody. So
yeah, for sure.
It didn't all go wrong, but usually one of those unanimous teams that was a guarantee. So yeah.
It's only me and you, so I feel like that might make it more dangerous. All right, Falcons and Panthers.
All right, so
ugly.
0-2 Carolina. I think Atlanta's the better team. I think Carolina's still building towards something. I'm going to take Atlanta, even though they're on the road in a divisional matchup.
Yeah, I would love to see Bryce Young get a W, but I agree. I think this is a Michael Penix Jr. game. Get right game. Steelers and Patriots.
Oh, give me the Steelers. Listen, it was a great win for New England last week. Divisional matchup. Miami found ways to give it right back. The Steelers are going to be that generous. Give me Pittsburgh.
I just think the Pittsburgh defense figures it out every single time. So I'll pick the Steelers too. Yikes, this is bad. We're straight up on the same team. All right, Packers-Browns. We don't even need to break them down.
Well, yeah, Green Bay's on a roll. Cleveland is not. Give me Green Bay.
Jets and the Bucks.
Jet fans, you're going to need more of these this week because it's just going to be another rough one down here in Tampa. Oh, the good thing is they're wearing the creamsicle uniforms. Bad is there's been a little bit of a curse for the Bucks and the creamsicle.
Yeah.
The bad thing is you're not playing very well right now, and this is not the good time to come down here in the Tampa Heat to come down here playing uninspired football the way you did against Buffalo. You better be inspired today. Then again, there is no Justin Fields, so that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Get these ready, Jet fans. You're going to need a lot of them. Let's give me Tampa Bay.
All right, Broncos and Chargers. Finally, we could disagree here.
Denver's tough. Denver's real tough, but LA is playing great ball right now. So I'm going to go with the Fighting Harbaughs. Give me the Chargers.
This is crazy. We're going to be unanimous the whole time. Saints and Seahawks.
Oh, man. Listen, there's no way I'm picking the Saints right now. Give me the Seahawks. Yeah.
It's ugly out there. A lot of teams that need a lot of adjustments. Cowboys and the Bears.
Give me Dallas in this one. I think Chicago right now is still figuring themselves out. Dallas knows who they are. They just need to get a little healthy in certain positions. But Dallas is going to start to get on a roll, get nervous, people. If Dallas gets on a roll, them and Philadelphia are going to put cause a lot of problems in the NFC for a lot of teams.
Yeah, it sucks that every time a team has a nearing loss or a loss, they're going to take it out on the Bears. It's just like going to be their MO for the season.
Play better. You don't have to beat a bump in somebody's road.
Yeah, it's true.
It is what it is.
Cardinals and Niners.
You're going to have a tough matchup on the road. Two undefeated teams. Who's going to take the loss today? I want to believe in Arizona against the backup quarterback.
Mac Jones.
I liked Mac Jones coming out in the draft. I think this is the kind of role that suits him. I think if you have Christian McCaffrey doing what he does, he makes it easier to beat Arizona. The San Francisco defense is trying to round back into the form that it used to be. They had a lot of aging guys they let go of. A lot of the guys they brought in haven't really stepped up yet. At home, they're a tougher team than if they were in Arizona. I think this is a more consequential win for Arizona. I'm going to lean, though, Arizona. I think with Purdy, they're a guaranteed shot to win this at home. Without Purdy, it's a lot more ifs about it. So give me Arizona in this take.
Okay, we're finally split. I'm going to pick the Niners really because they're at home. It's the first home game. I think that'll give them a little bit of an edge. But I think this game's going to be closer than we think. Like, I feel like it's going to be a very close game, like fourth quarter. Everybody's going to be sweating down at Levi Stadium. Chiefs and Giants.
The Chiefs get right and get the win over the Giants. Listen, there's one thing about the Giants they can do is pressure the quarterback. One thing they have a hard time doing is staying disciplined in coverage, as we saw last week. So give me Patrick Mahomes breaking down an undisciplined secondary in the New York Giants. Does he go out there and score 40 against the Giants? Only if they're giving up 40. Sure. I think overall, I think it'll be a 31-20-something game. I think Russell Wilson's still going to put up some stats versus this team. Right now, Kansas City's all about blitzing. They're having issues because they're an aging defense. So you're starting to see these guys are not able to make the plays they were able to make 2 seasons ago. That Father Time is undefeated. I know this too well. I have the bad knees and the ankles and the shoulders to prove it. Okay, when you start to diminish as a player, when you go out there, that ball you could break up 2 years ago is now a contested catch. Okay, it tells you that you're slipping a little bit. The Chiefs are starting to slip. Okay, without those 2 explosive threats down the field, it's going to be more about Pat Mahomes extending plays, doing a lot of things. I think Isaiah Pacheco is going to be big for them, catching balls out of the backfield. Running the ball, yes, but catching balls out of the backfield is going to be big. He's going to create some problems for those giant linebackers. So overall, if they can keep Burns and Thibodeau off of him enough for him to move around and buy time and make those throws to Kelsey and those other targets, I think the Kansas City comes out 31-24.
I'm going to pick the Giants because last week that was a competitive matchup, and Malik Neighbors and Russell Wilson seem to be getting chemistry building. So I'm going to pick them, obviously, because I'm a Raider fan. So that's my backup.
They're going to blitz them a lot more than Dallas did. They're not going to sit in zone like Dallas.
It's true.
That's the difference between what happened in Dallas and Kansas City. Kansas City's not going to sit back and let him dink and dunk. All right, that is not their defensive coordinator. He does not do that. He is going to bring pressure. Russell's going to have to move. We saw that they're compromised on the offensive line when they have to pick up a blitz. But dropping 4 and sitting in zone is an Eberflus thing. It is not a Spagnuolo thing. Steve Spagnuolo is going to blitz him unmercifully. It's going to be a different game for Russell Wilson than we saw against Dallas. Eberflus let him sit back and throw. He's not going to get that opportunity versus Kansas City. It's going to be a different giant offense this week.
Yeah. You're right. I feel like for a Sunday night football game, Russell Wilson needs to be like on edge, right? Okay, last game, Lions and Ravens.
Give me Lamar and the Ravens. I think the Lions are going to take a little longer to figure out who they are. I think give them about week 6 or 7 before this team has played enough games and they fully understand who they are before they start to turn it on. I think Lamar and them pulling this one out, it's not going to be a blowout. I think it'll be a 7-point game.
Yes, I agree.
27-20.
All right, I picked the Ravens too. I think the Detroit defense is just not going to be ready for Derrick Henry and Lamar, which we talked about so much. So, all right, perfect. Those are our picks of the week. Thanks, Jeff, for being here. Jeff is a busy man, so he took the time out to just talk to me only because we missed Thomas this morning about all the 3 games we talked about plus our panic mode. So thank you, Jeff.
Anytime. Like I said, it was great to come on and talk some ball. You know, I'm out there, and now it's all about talking to schools and athletic departments for players that I need. I'm no longer just covering it and informing people. Now it's about informing my people and trying to get somebody better for once. So it feels nice to be league affiliated, but for once, you know, but I do miss being on here and talking football.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we miss you too. So you can come back anytime. Okay.
By all means, like I said, you know, when I'm not out there doing things like that, you know, that's that's got me so busy now. And there is still school. I'm still finishing up my degree that I didn't finish years ago. So you're never too late to finish what you started. So
Jeff is doing all the things. If you don't think you have enough time in the world, you should talk to Jeff. Okay.
There's time. There's not enough sleep, but there's time.
That's so true. All right, we're going to log off. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Moving the Chains. And be sure to like, subscribe, Team NBS Media everywhere on your social platforms. Have a great Sunday and enjoy the game.